Good afternoon, everyone. It is so great to look out and see a group here gathered for this special celebration. So before we get started, I would like to begin by acknowledging that King's University College is situated on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape-Wook, and the Chinokton peoples, all of whom have long-standing relationships to the land of southwestern Ontario and the City of London. The First Nations communities of our local area include Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and Delaware Nation. In our region, there are 11 First Nation communities, as well as a growing Indigenous urban population. King's University College values the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations, and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island, also known as North America. So hello everyone, my name is Laura Peters and I am the Alumni Engagement Officer here at King's. We are very happy to have a brand new batch of almost alumni to join our King's alumni family. And we have a special lecture here for you today and then a reception to follow. So we have a wonderful keynote speaker to deliver a special lecture. And to kick things off, I'd like to call our King's president, Dr. David Malloy, up to say a few words.
Thank you, Laura. Good afternoon, everybody. And students, congratulations. You're not there yet, but you're so close. Another couple of weeks, a little bit more studying, a couple exams, and you're off to the races. So congratulations for getting this far after, well, 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe more than that, but you're so very close, so congratulations. I want to thank our faculty for all of the mentorship that you've done for these fabulous students over the last several years. King's is a premier university for its student engagement, for the quality of the academic programming and its research. But what we do so very well, and as I've spoken in the last 4 years to alumni, whether they graduated in the late 60s or whether they graduated last year, what they talk about is the relationship and the high quality of the teaching that goes on at this institution. So faculty, thank you for being so dedicated and so caring to all of our students. I was asked to comment about continuous learning, but I'm going to be very brief about this by saying that the jobs that you're going to get next year, or this summer or in the fall, probably won't be the same jobs you're going to have in 2024 or 2026 or 2029 or 2035. Point one. Point two, part of the reason why you won't have those same jobs is in great part due to technological disruption. I don't think any of us have figured out how ChatGPT is going to affect all of us, but that's a monumental switch, and that's going to change the way we do things here at King's, but it's going to change your jobs as well, in the same way that the internet changed things, in the same way that the printing press changed things. So it's technology that's really going to be very, very disruptive. But the beauty of that, and I'm not saying this to put fear in your heart, I'm saying this to congratulate you for being graduates of a really fine liberal arts university, because not only do you know stuff about finance and economics and philosophy and sociology and all the rest of that stuff, what you've learned here is how to be flexible. What you've learned here is how to be creative, and what you've learned here is how to be critical thinkers. And it's those skills that are going to take you so far in your career. Of course, all the theories you've learned, that's extremely important. But it's your flexibility, your adaptability to constant change in these coming years that is going to set you apart from others. So I congratulate you for choosing to come to King's 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And I think as you go through your career, you're really going to find out how important this university has been to you and how important a liberal arts education has been to you. I guess one final note on faculty, and something I reflect on myself. So over my career, I've had a few mentors. I mean, you don't have a bunch of mentors. You usually have a few that you really connect with. So don't lose touch with the faculty members that you've really connected with, because they're going to be part of your life for the next 30, 40, 50 years. I did my undergrad and a master's degree at Western, and I'm still in contact with my supervisor. So those are really important relationships, and nurture them. Make sure you stay in touch with them. Even if you're talking about, where you've been and what you've done on a very casual level, keep them in contact. They do want to know how you're doing. We all want to know how you're doing. Make sure those really special mentors you keep in contact with. So I'll stop there, and again, congratulations to every one of you. Congratulations to the faculty and staff that are here that were part of your journey. And this keynote speaker is absolutely fabulous. She's one of our superstars. We're so glad to have you, Daniella, and really looking forward to your talk. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you, President Malloy. And now I'd like to call upon the Dean of Students, Joe Henry, to say a few remarks.
Okay, so sit back for 30 minutes of fun. No, I'm just kidding at this point. So, hard to believe we're here at this point. It's always something to end an academic year, but I certainly, on behalf of everyone here at King's, I want to again congratulate you on the successful almost completion of your academic program. And as you prepare to graduate, I know you still have some classes left, so I'm not going to dwell too much on that, but I'm also very excited to listen to Dr. Bendo's last lecture, so I'm not going to take too much time. We talk about King's being a place to be, become, and belong, and as I look out into the people that are gathered here today, it could not be more appropriate. You as students are critical in animating our tagline. Everything and everyone who is part of this community are committed to providing you, our students, with the space and the place where you can discover yourself, find your passions and your calling, and I hope as an outcome as you leave King's, you're equipped with a sense of purpose to go out and make an impact on this world. Speaking of impact, I'm particularly proud of this academic class because I know many of you, I know not all of you, but many of you started with us in the 1920 academic year. And by the end of that year, your world and our campus changed significantly as a result of COVID. There was no playbook for this, and we tried to navigate this new world together. I was consistently impressed with your resiliency to complete your journey, whether that was through the year or through the next 4 years. There were missteps in that journey, no doubt, but I do believe, based on getting to know many of you, that you've taken this experience as a moment to grow and to learn, but also to go out and make a difference in a society, in our communities, to make them more just and more fair. And I honestly could not be more proud as your Dean of Students. So when you get some time in the next few months, as you transition to whatever it is you're going to be doing next, whether it be work, further education, travel, or a combination of all of them, remember to travel. Take some time to travel. That's my one regret. Take some time to travel. I hope you can look back at King's in a positive way. I hope we have fulfilled your commitment to help you build a foundation that, along with your family and friends, your faculty and fellow classmates, that will help you construct a meaningful, impactful life journey, because that's what it's all about. So my congratulations to all of you. Please know that you're always welcome at King's. So stay in touch and take good care. Congratulations, everybody.
Thank you, Joe. The decision for today's guest speaker was left up to the graduating students who voted for their favorite professor. So it's only fitting that we have a student do her introduction. So I'd like to ask the KUCSC Vice President of Student Events, Krisha Enriquez, to come up and introduce our guest speaker.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you to all the students who took the time to cast their vote for their favorite professor this year. There were a lot of great candidates who received votes, but there can only be one to give the last lecture. Before I introduce her, I would like to personally congratulate you all on finishing your studies. These last few years haven't been easy on any student. Having to navigate through the uncertainties of the pandemic and adapting to various kinds of learning environments and evaluations has not been an easy feat. But you're here now, you did it, and you should be very proud of yourselves. I've known many of you since first year. Some of you are good friends, and others are familiar faces that I've gotten used to seeing on campus. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Congratulations once again. Now, without further ado, it is my honor to introduce this year's last lecture speaker. Dr. Daniella Bendo is an assistant professor in the Department of Childhood and Youth Studies. She has a PhD in legal studies from Carleton University, and she started at King's in July 2020. Dr. Bendo is a critical children's rights and childhood studies scholar. Her teaching and research focus on child and youth advocacy, children's rights, participation, and child-centered research methodologies, among other things. Everyone, please welcome Dr. Bendo to the stage.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'd like to start just by thanking all of you for the opportunity to be here today. I feel truly honored that I have a chance to just share some thoughts with you today, and I want to start by congratulating all of you for making it to this point. I know how much hard work and dedication goes into this journey, all of the sacrifices, the triumphs, the challenges, and so all of you should be extremely proud of yourselves because pursuing and also completing undergraduate education is not an easy feat. For those of you who don't know me, at this point you may be wondering, how do I know how much hard work and dedication goes into completing an undergraduate degree when I myself kind of look like an undergraduate student? Let's be honest here. I say this because every time I teach a new class, students come up to me and they say, "Are you the professor? We thought you were a student in the class." And I can't tell you how many times I've been mistaken on campus as an undergraduate student. Last year, for example, at the King's Open House, my colleague Sam and I, we were walking in and we go to check in, and Sam goes, "I'm a professor in childhood and youth studies, where should I be?" And they say, "Yep, just go set up down there." So I follow his lead, and the greeters actually stopped me, handed me a brochure and said, "Welcome to King's." Welcome to King's program is, we have a great program today, tours are starting soon. So I actually had to tell them, I'm not a student here, I'm actually a professor. And, I have to give it to them. They were doing an amazing job at Open House. So I'm definitely not complaining about these compliments whatsoever. But why am I telling you this? Well, the point of sharing this with you is to highlight 3 different points. First point, while I may not be an undergraduate student, in many ways I still am a student because our learning simply does not end when we graduate. Whether this is from an undergraduate degree, a master's degree, PhD degree, college education, or other education, all of us, no matter how young or how old we may look, all of us are lifelong learners. And for some of you who are graduating, perhaps this is your first degree. But I'm sure that there's also some of you who are here today who have also come back to continue some of your studies as well. And so I think this is really important because as you move forward, I hope that you remain open to continuing to build on your skills and knowledge and really to recognize that everyone, no matter what stage in life we're at, everyone is a student and a lifelong learner. The only difference is that the student discounts actually stop when you graduate, so take advantage while you can. All right, point number 2. Another reason why I shared this story with you is because it really wasn't that long ago that I sat where you're sitting. Different university, but probably at the same stage that many of you are at today. So I actually graduated from my undergraduate program in 2014, which to me feels like a long time ago, but that's really only 9 years ago. And so the point here is that I can relate to you. But I'm not here to tell you what to do, because your journey is going to be different from mine, and it's going to be different from each other's as well. You've worked hard and you challenged yourself and made it to where you are today, so you already know what you're doing, even if sometimes it may not feel that way. I know that 9 years ago for myself, I had just no idea how exciting my journey would be. All of the opportunities that I've had since I've graduated from my undergraduate degree have been extremely meaningful. And so what I'd like to say is that there's really so many exciting opportunities that await you, and so much that you have to look forward to in terms of your own journey and what lies ahead. So as I move forward today, rather than telling you what to do, I'd simply like to share some experiences and insights and challenges that I learned along the way that made my journey exciting, that perhaps you can also relate to. Point number 3, why I share this story with you about being mistaken as an undergrad. When I was asked to give this lecture, I was asked to provide words of wisdom. And so I actually want to deconstruct what wisdom is and what it means. Wisdom is defined as the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment, the quality of being wise. And so I think oftentimes wisdom is associated with individuals who have accumulated knowledge and experiences over their life trajectory. And usually, I would say that's a lifelong trajectory, or at least that's what I think of when I think of someone who has wisdom. And I'm sure that many of you are familiar with conceptions of the old wise owl that is oftentimes depicted in movies and shows. And there's no doubt that owls are wise, and that a lot of people in our lives who can offer us wisdom are people who have lived long lives filled with diverse experiences and lessons learned. And in fact, I'd like to share some wisdom with you today that was passed down to me by mentors of mine. And President Malloy talked about the importance of mentors, and I want to touch on that too, because I think that's really, really important. I also think that wisdom is knowledge accumulated through various experiences and not necessarily accumulated through age. Age doesn't automatically guarantee wisdom if your experiences are repetitive and static. In fact, wisdom is also associated with characteristics and skills, and not necessarily years of experience. So the reality is that all of you already have wisdom. In my opinion, if you're always looking to better yourself by being open to learning, then you've already gained some wisdom. So the insights that I'm going to share today, they may not be based on 30 years of experience working in the field as a professor, but rather they're based on a collection of learning experiences that unfolded over a really exciting journey where I had an opportunity to meet some impactful individuals who significantly shaped this path. And I think these experiences may be relevant to where you may be at in your journey today. Some of you may know exactly what you want to do as you move forward. Or maybe you have, a pretty good idea of what you might want to do. Raise your hand if you feel like that's you. Okay, we got a couple hands. Now, some of you may not know this yet, and that's okay. I know for me, I wasn't really sure until an extremely impactful professor that I met in my program by the name of Richard Mitchell taught me about children's rights in his classes, and he said to me, "Why don't you do a master's degree? There's so much opportunity that we have when we study children's rights to make an impact." And so I decided at the end of my 4th year that I was going to do a master's degree, simply because I liked learning, I didn't want school to end, but also because I really cared deeply about children and young people, and I wanted to keep learning about some of the complexities that they face. So if someone asked me to raise my hand if I knew what I wanted to do next, I probably would have raised my hand, but to be honest with you, I really had no idea if I was going to like graduate school, if I thought it would be worth it, or what I was going to do after. And so I took a chance. And I was really, really nervous about taking this chance. And I thought a lot about it. But what I realized from taking this chance was that if I didn't take it, I could stay in my comfort zone. And that sounded pretty good to me at that time. But I would really never know what other possibilities lie ahead. Because sometimes you have to take a chance in order to grow and to challenge yourself. And of course, it's not always easy, and it doesn't always end up working out the way that you thought it would. But sometimes you can figure out what you want to do by taking a chance. Because that chance, it gives you an opportunity to either try something new and love it, or try something new and hate it. If you love it, then you've won. But if you hate it, you also win. Because by trying something new and deciding that you hate it, it actually can get you a little bit closer to figuring out what you might love or what you might want to do. But you have to take the chance to get there. And if you take a chance because you're following a desire to pursue something that you love or that you care about, then you're going to win because you made that decision. And even if you haven't found that yet, just remember that either way, there's something to gain by taking a chance. And in fact, all of you here today, you've already done this when you took a chance on coming to King's. I know from my experience, when I finished my master's degree, I knew I had learned a lot about myself and about the field I was studying. And I know that I was extremely lucky to have an inspirational and passionate supervisor who really cared about me. And he opened my eyes to the potential of the field of childhood and youth studies. But I still wasn't really sure what step I wanted to take. And so I took another chance, and I moved away to a new city to start my PhD. And during this phase of my journey, I had the privilege of meeting and working with someone by the name of Senator Landon Pearson. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with Senator Pearson, she is the daughter-in-law of former Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson, and she was actually called to the Senate in 1994. She became well known as the children's senator. Let's go back here. She was also known as the Senator for Children, and she actually dedicated her life to advocating with and for children and their rights across Canada. And through her life's work, she has significantly influenced the way that we think about children and their rights. She has a center at Carleton University, and that's actually where I met her when I started my PhD. And this one was actually working at the age of 86 years old. So when I first met her, she was 86 years old, and she actually worked until she was 92 years old. And I don't mean, looking at a couple texts here and there. I mean actively working and engaging to advocate for young people's rights. And sadly, Landon passed away a few weeks ago. But the reason I bring Landon up is because she was an incredible mentor to me, and she taught me some extremely valuable lessons and shared her wisdom with me, which I'd like to share with you today. But before I share this wisdom, I want to highlight that I never would have learned everything that I did from Landon if I didn't take a chance, but also if I didn't invest in taking that chance and believe in the chance that I was taking. So if you're going to take a chance, I think you also really need to believe in yourself and invest in taking that chance, even if you're really nervous about it or if you're unsure about it. I know when I met Landon for the first time, I was extremely nervous because she was this highly regarded senator. But she fundamentally changed my journey because she saw that I was invested. And when she saw that, she too invested in me. And she also took a chance on me. She introduced me to networks across Canada and around the world. She hired me to work in her center to lead some of her child and youth initiatives. And I've had a chance to bring some of those initiatives here to King's. She took me to conferences and meetings with government officials. She gave me opportunities to come to the Senate with her to advocate for young people. And she provided me with important guidance and mentorship. A lot of this was based on some of her lifelong work, among so many other different things that she did to support me. And many of these experiences have significantly shaped the work that I do with my students and in my research. And so together, both of us really took a chance on one another, which led to some incredible experiences and a really powerful relationship that lasted until the end of Landon's life. So take chances and invest in those chances because they can turn out to be some really incredible opportunities. All right, now to share some of Landon's wisdom. I remember when I was doing my PhD, I used to tell Landon all the time how worried I was about what I would do next and about what my future would hold. And finally, she just stopped me and said, Daniella, your generation seems to be so anxious about the future that they forget to live in the present. And I think this can be true sometimes. Sometimes you're in the midst of one of the most exciting parts of your journey, but it's hard to recognize that because you're so focused on what comes next. So while, of course, it's important to make plans and to make goals and to work really, really hard towards those goals, I really hope that you remember to pause and just acknowledge everything that you've already done and where you are at in the moment, because before you know it, that future that you've worked so hard to get to, that future becomes the present, and then it starts to pass you by. But it's really also what you're doing right now, the experiences along the way that are going to help you reach those goals, and I don't think that they should be overlooked. One of the really special things about Landon was that she was a change maker. And there's no doubt that she had a great deal of privilege, but she leveraged this privilege to make a difference for children in Canada. And when we think about what it means to change something, traditionally we think about either modifying or altering someone or something in particular. And while Landon did alter things such as policies and legislation pertaining to young people, one of the really, really powerful things about her was that she had an ability to impact and also influence so many different types of people. Whether this was colleagues or friends or family members, students or children and young people, she did this in a variety of different ways, whether this was giving advice, using her knowledge to help someone, taking the time to make someone feel like they really belong, also just taking the time to mentor students and inspire them, among so many other things. And then these people that she impacted, they then had an impact on others without even having to significantly change or alter or modify anything, because they were impacted and influenced by someone, which made them want to impact and influence others. And I know for me, I was just so inspired by the impact that Landon had made that it made me want to work towards making an impact in my research, in my teaching, and in my work with young people. And I've had the opportunity to do some of this now, which I think is just really exciting. And I think it's just incredible to reflect on the fact that it was all because I took a chance after my undergraduate degree. Most of Landon's life was actually spent volunteering to advocate with and for young people. And in fact, it actually wasn't until she was 64 years old, when she was called to the Senate, that she received her very first paycheck. And although she obviously had a certain amount of privilege, the point here is that everyone has an opportunity to make an impact and to influence others, whether you're 23 years old, 64, or 92. And you can start right now. And I already know that so many of you already have. But you don't have to drastically change something to make a difference. The other thing is that it's okay to take your time as well. Landon started a new career at the age of 64, and that career led to significant change and impact. As another example, my former supervisor, Richard Mitchell, who appeared in some of the photos earlier, he actually didn't start his undergraduate degree until he was in his early 30s. It took him 7 years to obtain his degree, and that's because he was doing some really incredible work with young people in challenging circumstances. And he ended up becoming a professor at the age of 50. Comparably, my PhD supervisor, Dale Spencer, who's pictured here, he became a professor in his early 30s. And he was one of the youngest professors in the department, in the legal studies department at Carleton. And yet he had just so much incredible wisdom and knowledge to offer, which fundamentally played a monumental role in supporting me in my learning journey. So if we just kind of pause here and think about these three different people, right? So we have Landon, Richard, and Dale. You can really see that these are three very different paths in terms of timing. Yet all of them are incredible, impactful mentors who have made a difference in so many people's lives. So the point here is, if you're worried about timing and taking more time to either figure out what you want to do or to get where you know you want to be, you still have a lot of time. And although it's true that time does fly, there's really no deadline on when your learning needs to end. And in fact, you can expect it to continue for the rest of your life. Nurses don't just stop learning because they've graduated and then they're hired as nurses. Neither do social workers, lawyers, electricians. Anyone who really wants to make an impact, most people, it's taken them some time in order to be able to do this. The decision is obviously yours, but I would say that our world could really use some influential and impactful people at a time when we're in the midst of so many different crises pertaining to things like climate change, war, racism and discrimination, global health, poverty, among so many other different things. It's not always easy, but as British author and educator Sir Ken Robinson once said, "What you do for yourself dies with you when you leave this world. What you do for others lives on forever." So think about what you want to do. The best part about all of this is that you don't have to do it alone. Landon always used to tell me how important relationships are. And she was right. So one thing I want to remind everyone is that none of us got here or did this alone. Yes, you're here today because you worked extremely hard individually, right? You put in a ton of work to be here. but also because you had friends and family and colleagues and supporters who helped you reach this point. People who cared about you, encouraged you, challenged you, believed in you, or were brutally honest with you. And I think that these relationships can enable us to be lifelong learners, to gain wisdom and recognize our own wisdom, and to feel confident in what we're doing. So while, of course, it may be true that knowledge is power, so too are experiences and relationships, because you're going to need to draw on them for the rest of your life, especially when you take chances, when you think about where you are in the present and where you want to be in the future, and in order to make an impact and be influential. When I think about my own journey, I know that if I didn't do these things, I would not be where I am today. But what made my journey really, really exciting was the relationships that I developed along the way. So develop and cherish relationships because they're important for what you're going to do now and for in the future as well. Now, if we reflect on where you are today, think about if you didn't take the chance on King's. It's hard to say where you'd be, but one thing's for certain, you made the right decision taking a chance on King's just based on what this place is and what it stands for. A place to be and a place to become. All of you have heard this phrasing already. But if we really think about what that means in the context of a learning journey, it means that everyone is viewed as a being and also as a becoming. And I think this messaging is actually quite relevant to the field of childhood and youth studies, which is the field that I am immersed in. We spend a lot of time theorizing and talking about young people as both beings and becomings. Childhood and youth studies scholars such as Jan Kortroff, Allison James, Alan Prout, and Chris Jenks highlight that oftentimes we view young people as becomings rather than beings because they aren't fully developed yet and they haven't gained a lot of experience or are still in the process of developing. So if we think about this, a young person who's viewed as a becoming is therefore seen as an adult in the making, someone who maybe lacks universal skills or features of the adult that they will eventually become. Comparably, however, these scholars explain that if you're recognized as a being, there's a recognition that you have capacity, skills, experience, and knowledge that you can offer and contribute. So recognizing a young person as a being is therefore acknowledging them as, individuals who have a lot to offer in terms of experience and viewpoints and ideas. Now, I would actually argue that these childhood and youth studies debates are quite relevant to everyone at every stage in life, and not just to children and young people, because they help to shed light on what it means to be and to become who you are. So if we apply this thinking to your own journey here at King's, all of you came here as beings, which means that you brought knowledge, you brought experience and your viewpoints, and you engaged these contributions when you started this phase of your journey. But all of you also built on all of this as becomings through your learning and your programs and through social engagements to develop new knowledge, new skills, new viewpoints and contributions. But when you leave this place, it doesn't mean that you've reached this kind of endpoint and are no longer someone who's in the process of becoming, because all of us are and will continue to be both beings and becomings, no matter how young or how old we look or how much or how little we've accomplished. So know that you have the power to be whoever you want to be and whoever you want to become. Let me repeat that again. You have the power to be whoever you want to be and whoever you want to become. And of course, there may be times when people are going to underestimate and challenge you for many different reasons. Maybe you're looked at as someone who's still becoming, and as a result, you're seen as someone who lacks experience or knowledge. Maybe you look too young to occupy a certain position, or maybe you look too old to still be in school. And I'm sure this has happened to probably many of you before. But the important thing to remember is that as much as you may be someone who is still becoming, you're also still someone that is a being who has a lot to offer in terms of the knowledge, the experience, the skills, and the ideas that you have right now in the present. So as you move forward into your future, know that we're here for you at King's, and we will always be rooting for you. And while this may feel like an ending, just remember that every ending is just another beginning. Congratulations to the graduating class of 2023. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your inspiring words, Professor Bendo, and we are so thankful that you came and shared your perspective with us today. You almost make me wish I was graduating myself, but that ship has sailed, so
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
okay. So we are almost to the end of our formal program, and the Alumni Office has planned a small reception where we'll have a toast to congratulate all of our impending graduates. But just because you're graduating does not mean that your relationship with King's is ending. You are students for a short time, but you are alumni for a lifetime, and there are many ways for you to stay involved. We have a mentoring program that is not only good for current students, but also for recent grads, where we will match you with an established alumnus in the field that you're interested in. We have a new web series that we are working on that will cover topics such as money management, LinkedIn tips, creating a work-life balance, and how to properly network. We also organize social and networking events in London and in other cities where our alumni settle. And we'd love to have you come back for your first homecoming as an alumnus this September 22nd and 23rd. Mark it in your calendar right now. You're going to want to come back. And if you are interested in volunteering, we have lots of options for that as well. So the point is to just stay connected to King's. Being part of the King's Alumni Association also means discounts on insurance rates, privileges using campus facilities, and other deals and preferred rates. So the best way for you to stay up to date on these benefits and events is to make sure that you keep your contact info up to date, and you can follow us on social media at KUC Alumni. We encourage you to use the hashtag #IWentToKings. And you'll also want to make sure that you update your LinkedIn profile and include King's under your education. So a lot of people want to include Western, which is fine, but you can add more than one school. So go ahead and add Western, but also make sure you add King's, because that's really going to stand out to other King's grads, and that's an easy way for you to make connections. You'll also want to make sure, if you haven't had a chance yet, that you fill out the graduate survey, and we have links in the reception area for you to fill that out. And we just want to keep up with the things that you're doing. So it's now time to move into the reception area, and we are going to be gathering everyone near the fireplace to do a group photo and a special toast. When you were checking in, if you did get a little paper ticket, you will be getting your commemorative champagne glass. But good news for anyone else who is here that pre-registered, when you go out, just check in again with the registration desk. Most of you will also be able to get one of these glasses. And then you can have that filled with either champagne, or they have a mocktail as well. So I'll ask you to make your way out. If you don't have a paper ticket, check in with the registration. And if you do, go ahead and pick up your cocktail glasses.